Everybody, this is Grant from State of the Spark, and I am super excited to be here today. I'm going to touch on something that's super near and dear to me. In fact, it's so near and dear to me that I've written several books on it, and I am super pumped to share with you a little bit about that. But before any of that, before we talk about what to do when you're lost and how to feel unlost. Now, it's okay. I know the quote, not all who wander are lost. Wandering's okay. But if you were wandering and feeling numb, if you're wandering and feeling disconnected from who you are, disconnected from the work you're doing, you might even be doing the work you had always set out to do. But there might be this massive disconnect. I'm noticing a lot of people, they have the things and the goals and the desires they set out to have, but for some reason, they don't feel as elated as they thought they would. They don't feel as pumped as they thought they would. That's what we're going to talk about this morning, so I'm super excited to touch on that. But before we get into any of that, you know what we're going to do. Now, we're going to skip other news this morning. We're going to skip markets. We're just going to skip it this morning, and we're going to go right into the story. But before that, we're going to start with morning. Oh, look at all of my coffee. I spilled coffee. That's so rancid. So forgive me, but this is a morning cup of gratitude. I'm grateful that I have actual coffee in my morning coffee mug. But today we're going to cover gratitude and start with gratitude, because if you cannot start with a heart of gratitude, you cannot be positioned mentally and emotionally to receive the things you need to receive the things you're seeking. I believe the goals that you are seeking you. I believe the things that you want most in the world are out there, and they're being groomed and they're ready for you. But I think if you do not start with a heart of gratitude, if you do not have that place of heart and mind where you're just in awe of the world, you're open to what's going on, I don't know if you're in the right mental position to receive it, or I don't know if you could even see it if it came your way. So we're going to talk about Morning Cup of Gratitude. Let's start. I am so happy and grateful and full of joy. Now, mind you, that right there, happy, grateful, and full of joy. I'm so happy and grateful. That is actually the framework of my mantra. I'm so happy, grateful, and full of joy. Now that what? Now that I have a thing in my mind, the faculty of the mind called imagination. Now, there are multiple faculties of the mind, and we can talk about those some other day. But today, I'm particularly grateful for the faculty of the mind called imagination. Now, people think they understand what imagination is, but I'll tell you why I'm grateful for it this morning. Imagination is the ability to see something in your mind's eye that is not currently present to your senses. And what that simply means is, without external stimuli, you can picture something in your mind, picture what's not there. Why do I love that today? I love that today because this is the ability, alongside the other faculties of the mind, for you to create the life you want. Now, today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about why people might even be getting what they want, but they're not emotionally connected to it in the least. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But I am appreciative, grateful, deeply grateful for that, because without imagination, I don't know if I could create the life that I want, because you have to picture it first. There's two steps of creation. The first is in the mind, the ability to see something that's not there. And the second is in the world around you, the ability to act on, execute, and make that thing a reality for you. That's what I'm grateful for this morning. What are you grateful for? I want to hear in the comments below. Let's pull up the chat over here. I want to hear in the comments below what you're grateful for, what's getting you out of bed, what keeps you pumped. Now, before we move on, please do me a favor, and if you know of anyone who needs to be encouraged on whether they've acted like they're lost, they seem like they're lost, they feel like to you they don't know what to do when they're feeling lost. Again, they might have everything they want, and I'm not talking about the travelers of the world, the nomads who are perfectly fulfilled traveling, because not all who wander are lost. I'm talking about the people who literally are in a waking zombies, and not emotionally connected to their world. If they are, they're only negatively emotionally connected to their world. The reason I'm calling them out is this. Please like, subscribe, tag them, or share today's episode with them, because we're going to give them a few quick tools on how they can do that, in the ones that have made the biggest impact in my life, which I'll bring up here on the screen in just a quick second. Let me pull that out right there and get that ready for you. So that's what I'm grateful for. Keep in mind, later this afternoon, me and Jackie the Whelm Roach will be covering something that we're building in the open. We're talking about exponential technologies, and we're using those on a project, and we just build in the open. We let you be a voyeur on our project. That's this afternoon at 3:15, I believe. Tomorrow, Not Crypto Bros, we're going to talk a little bit about wealth building and project building in the crypto space, because just have a lot of experience with that tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 and Friday at 10 a.m. And of course, next Monday, we're going to be covering another great Spark show. Let's talk about what to do when you're feeling lost in a time that I had lost everything and felt radically lost. Let's talk about it. I was born in Vero Beach, Florida, and I grew up there and spent my entire young life there, right up until I was about 20, going on 21. And then I moved through a series of events to Lakeland, Florida. And in Lakeland, Florida, I immediately had these divine encounters of people providing housing for me, people providing work. I was literally paid to read books in Lakeland, Florida. I was paid back in 2006, 2007, about $3,000 a month to read and study and then present that information to a group of individuals. It was a blessing of a job. Now, for those who don't know, 2007, 2008 was a massive interruption economically for a lot of people, and it was for us as well. You see, I found myself having lost everything again. I lost my income. I lost the place that I had to sleep and live. I was living in my car. I lost my respect, and more importantly, I lost my self-confidence. Now, what do you do when you've lost everything? What do you do when you've stepped away from a decade-long marriage? What do you do when your business falls apart? What do you do when you fail out of school? What do you do when you get fired from a job? What do you do? Well, a lot of people, first and foremost, experience lack of meaning. You know, there's a ton of lack of meaning out there. We have the internet at our fingertips. We have all options, but what do you choose? We have all information. What do you act on? How do you filter out all the options available to you? Do you quit, become homeless? Do you become, like I did when I lost everything, do you just start living on the beach and just living outside the system? How do you make the decision on what to do? And then we were having more and more of the internet. We don't have the internet that we have today. Today we're in the omniscience age. Back then we were just in the information age. I didn't have all the gurus telling us that we could be this and we could be that. We had plenty of authors telling us that, but when you're broke and you can't buy a book, you can't read what those authors are telling you. But when you have the internet, you could just see anyone's feed and get encouraged to do something. Which do you choose? There are so many people experiencing lack of meaning, lack of inspiration, lack of aspiration, that I think it's actually the endemic situation, the epidemic challenging our society. So in 2007, I had lost everything, but I had an advantage other people didn't have. I had been spending years at that point, almost 8 years at that point, reading and studying gurus. And so I turned to the things I normally turn to. First and foremost, I had no family. This is where most people turn when they've lost everything. They turn to family. They call their dad or their mom or a parent or an uncle or an aunt or a relative that they've always confided in, and they get good advice. Do you have that? I didn't have that. I didn't have that advice. Oh, I didn't have that advice in my life at the time. I didn't have that encouragement. Yes, I had my parents. They were around the country, but they weren't involved in my life in a way where I sought them for advice, and maybe that was my stubbornness. I didn't have my siblings close to where I could ask for input when I had lost everything. In fact, it was embarrassing to have lost everything again and have to live in my car at that time. So where do you go when most people lose everything or get stuck? They turn to, and it's called an axis mundi. An axis mundi is the axis upon which your world turns. And for a lot of people, it's their parents, it's their family. And though I have a good relationship with most of my family, we're not close like that. And as a male, and as a middle child male, I was always out on my own. And so when I lost everything again, I didn't have family, and I was new to living in Lakeland at the time, and I had no community. So I didn't have family and didn't have community. Now, where's the next place most people turn when they've lost everything? The next place people turn when they've lost everything is they turn to their faith. Now, up until that point, I had been deeply engaged in the Christian faith. And I had an immense immersion. I was a youth pastor, a pastor. I was building up to working in Haiti and doing a lot of missional work. But I was having a crisis of faith at the time and deconstructing my faith. And I would even say, if you know me today, you know I've massively deconstructed my faith from who I was back then. But even back then, I was questioning, should I ask for God? It makes me think of this. There's a new Jelly Roll song out there. Who am I to ask for a favor when I only ever reach out to God to ask for a favor, you know? Go listen to the song. It's a phenomenal song. But at the time, I was struggling to get on my knees. Where do you go? Quite often, most people, when they've lost everything, they first go to their family and their support network. They then go to their community. They then go to their faith when they're absolutely lost and don't know what to do. They drop to their knees and pray. Doesn't matter who they pray to necessarily, but they drop to their knees and pray. And at the time, I was a very deeply praying man, but I felt like I wasn't being heard by God or anything of the sort. So I was lost. Now, we call this in anthropology the loss of the axis mundi. I already gave you this term. Axis mundi is the axis upon which your world turns. Now, for most people, they start believing their parents are godlike. Their parents can take care of them, but at some point their parents let them down, or they're disappointed, or they're humanized in some way. I have a good friend, Jackie. She'll be on the show with me this afternoon. She lost her father young, and her father was just this epic person for her, an epic support. But when she lost her father, it was deeply human and deeply traumatizing. We've all had a parent that we're close to or not so close to, and they say something as we become adults, or they do something as we become adults, and they are no longer godlike. I call this the loss of the first gods. And the first gods are our parents who are showing us what it's like to be godly. And I don't mean from a faith perspective, I mean from a metaphysical support in the world. Our parents typically are the first gods to us, and when they are humanized in some way, they get sick or they get ill or they pass or they say something off color or they do something that's deeply disrespectful to you, this is the loss of the first gods, and that axis mundi shatters. And in our development, we then turn to our faith. And most people today do not have a strong faith. Now, I no longer could properly call myself a Christian simply because of what Christians call themselves. I believe I'm a Christian. I believe I follow Christ like I follow Buddha. I believe I'm a very spiritual person. I regularly, and I could show you my meditation material and my study material and my journal entries, I value deeply a spiritual life, but it's non-prescriptive. And a lot of people don't even have that. A lot of people don't even have a meditative practice. A lot of people have no self-reflection. A lot of people don't even journal. There's no internal life. And this used to be the second axis mundi as someone became an adult, but now they don't even have that. I turned to my faith and I didn't even have that at the time, and I wasn't really getting answers. So I turned to the third thing and the final thing that most people in their entire living life, not only in adulthood, but into old age, the last place people usually land, and that's goals. Now, for anyone who's had kids or grandkids, they know that this becomes your goal and your all-consuming reason for continuing, your all-consuming answer. The filter by which you go, should I do X, Y, and Z? No, because the kids. Should I do A, B, and C? Yes, because the kids. There's this filter by which they see the world. And that's really good. That's good, especially if you're a parent. But what about the millions and millions of people today who either their kids are grown and out of the house and they're having this new existential crisis, or people like myself who don't have kids and don't plan on having kids? Where do we turn? Well, we typically turn to goals. And usually when you see someone go through a midlife crisis, it's because they've never really had goals. Their axis mundi of parents is far behind them. The axis mundi of faith is most likely shattered and behind them. And now they have what we call a midlife crisis. Now, I personally do not believe it's a midlife crisis. I usually believe it's a midlife celebration. Their kids are empty nesters or have moved on, and they're rediscovering their fitness and health in their body. They're rediscovering whether or not they want these relationships that they've had to move forward. They're discovering meaning in their work, or they're looking for meaning in their work. And they're discovering that they have or need or desire an internal life, a spiritual life. Well, like anybody, I turned to my goals. In 2007, when I lost everything, I went through these axis mundis where I had lost everything. And I ultimately landed, I was 28 in 2008 when the real estate market collapsed. And I was living in my car. I was completely lost. But I had the self-education. I had the reading. I had access to the library. And so I challenged myself. I said this: I said, you know what? If I actually believed in the things I had been teaching other people about personal development, I could pull myself out of this. And that's what I did. I stayed in my car and I kept my attitude up. I didn't let it consume me. I had been prone to depression when I was in my teens, but I decided I wasn't going to let that control me. So I took everything I had learned and I applied it to myself. Instead of just synthesizing that material and turning it into a public speaking event as I was doing at the time before I had lost everything, I decided to go inward and apply all of this material to myself. Jillian, thanks for that. I appreciate that. I wonder, Jillian, confession time, Jillian. Had you ever gone through anything where you had lost everything and had to start over? Or if that's a little too heavy for 6:45 in the morning, what are you grateful for this morning? Drop it in the comments below. So I had simply lost everything and I turned to goal setting. I told myself on my 28th birthday, which is up, confession time. Yep, and I'm not sharing it live on screen. I appreciate that, Jillian. I wouldn't hang you out to dry, but this is my confession, so I'll share it with you because I want us to grateful for the lessons I've learned and lots of reading. What's the best thing you've read or the thing you're reading now? I'd love to hear how you're self-developing and girding yourself, making yourself more resilient for the things that will inevitably come into all of our lives. So what I did was this. I was turning 28 at the time and I was working in a cafe. I was lucky enough to find a job in a cafe and it was fortunately aligned with my personality traits. I was charismatic. I could sell plenty of coffee in this coffee shop and I gave myself a year. I said, by the time I turn 29, I want to absolutely have a foundation that is unshakable. That was my goal. I had turned 28, my birthday. I remember sitting in this coffee shop. I spent the last money I had. I had lost everything. I was living in my car. I had started my new job, and I was waiting for that new paycheck to hit, and then my birthday hit. No one knew it was my birthday except my family. I got a phone call from my mom. No one knew what I was really going through at the time because I kept it to myself. But I sat there and all I could afford was a cup of coffee. That's why I love to start my gratitude cup of coffee every morning. I started with my cup of coffee and I told myself, I'm going to start today with nothing. I'm going to rewrite my goals from scratch. And by the time I am 29, I want to have accomplished a few of these things, but moving forward and more importantly, have a foundation that's indestructible. And that is what this little portfolio is. This little portfolio is the result of those dreams and goal setting and dream writing that I did at the time. I love my goals. Do you have big goals? But here's what I've found in the last 15 years, almost 15 years since that day. Goals pull you out of the worst of it. Goals pull you forward step by step each and every day. They're phenomenal. If you do not have goals, stop this video, jump off, and write goals. You can always watch the replay later. You got to have goals. I love goals. But here's the thing. I have now accomplished so many of my goals. Investing in real estate, traveling the world, surfing in foreign water. I lived in the Dominican Republic. We fulfilled missionary work. We've written, this is my 7th book technically, though it's one of the few you're going to find on Amazon right now. I've written books even though I have ADHD. I have accomplished so much. I've created passive income through my business, though it's not $1 million business. That's my next goal. It's sufficient to keep me traveling and to keep me not worried about finances and income all the time. Goals are phenomenal. But the trick with goals is as you start accomplishing them, they no longer inspire you. That's the catch-22 with goals. If you set a goal and you achieve a bunch, you start developing the self-confidence, and maybe you didn't fulfill all of the goals, but you have a degree of confidence and boldness that goes, I can accomplish anything. And you start on a quest to dig deeper and to ask yourself, what more could I do? I started experiencing this myself about 12, 15 years ago, where goals themselves give you a reason to put one foot in front of the other. But once you can do that, you need something bigger. And what is it? I present for your consideration this. Most people in the world, they might have a lot, they might have a little, but they're lost. They don't have the axis mundi of family or parents. They don't have the axis mundi of faith. And quite honestly, the axis mundi of goals just isn't cutting it any longer. Jillian, thank you so much. I hope you're doing fantastic. I appreciate you, and I'd love to hear your story because I believe everyone has an inspiring story. But I believe what many are experiencing today, especially post-COVID, when they have all information available to them, when they have all opportunities available to them, they're starting to scratch their head and feel a different type of confusion or malaise. Now, what we used to have before the internet was a despair of lack of options. And a lot of people in the developing world are what we call underdeveloped countries. I've lived in the Dominican Republic. I've worked in Haiti. I've traveled quite a bit to third world countries, or what we used to call third world countries. A lot of those people do not have options, and there's a degree of despair that comes from being homeless, from being a throwaway person where you don't have options. But then there's a new malaise that is a very new ailment. And it's new ailment to fully developed countries, fully online countries, countries that are pretty established and industrialized like the United States. And it is this. It is the despair of too many options. Now, in the middle of this despair, when you have no access mundi, you have no filter by which to see the world, how do you make this decision? I present for your consideration this. It's something I took away from Peter Diamandis, and it's simply called an M, the letter M as in Mary, T, the letter T as in Tom, P, the letter P as in Paul, MTP, stands for massive transformative purpose. Now, you might have heard of things like this called by other names. MDP, major definite purpose. Goals. Goals, as we've already mentioned, they're too finite. And then you might have SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. You might have even heard of mission statements. These things are good, and you should have them. But you will, even if you do have them, most people don't even have that. But even if you do have them, I believe you're lacking something. There's something more you're looking for. Now, there is a Hindi phrase called Tatvam Asi. It will be my next tattoo. Tatvam Asi, and it means this: thou art that. You are it. You are the thing you are looking for. And I present for your consideration, inside of you is something that I am now calling an MTP, a massive transformative purpose. And I want to tell you what that is real quick, but I have told you about Tattvamasi, thou art that, because it's an acronym, that, T-H-A-T, the four elements that make a uniqueness of a massive transformative purpose. You see, a major definite purpose comes from Bob Proctor, who I love his teachings. Go check out his teachings, The Power to Have It All, from the early 2000s. I listen to the audio regularly. I've listened to it thousands of times. It had a major impact on my life. But he talks about a major definite purpose. The problem with definite purpose is that it's definite. Why is that a problem? Well, if it comes to goals, you need finite parameters in order to pursue them. That's also the problem with goals or SMART goals. They're specific. That empowers you. This is great. It empowers you to achieve them. But what about the malaise on the other side? What about the heaviness that comes when you have achieved something? People don't talk about this. When you achieve a big goal, there's often a mild depression after celebration. I hit a major fitness goal. You can go see some of the photos on my Instagram. I recommend. Go check it out and give me your feedback. I'm very proud of the work I have put into my physique. And I hit a major goal, and I would be lying if I told you I didn't celebrate. I went out. I had a great meal. I upgraded my wardrobe. I did some things for me. But the next week, there was a little bit of a depression that said, now what? So if goals and major definite purpose are too finite, a mission statement is almost too abstract for a company. It basically focuses on what you do or what you produce. A major transformative purpose has four key elements, and I encourage you to, number one, go read the book Exponential Organizations by Peter Diamandis. It's phenomenal. It's an easy read, but it is a very inspirational book about exponential technologies. But hidden in all of this is a function called an MTP, a massive transformative purpose. And I think these words matter. And I want to imbue this in you to give you another tool by which to frame your world so that you wake up and actually look for these as indicators that you have something worthy of pursuing, a filter by which you could filter in all the options available to you. Should I go get fit? Should I invest time into that? Should I spend more time with my cousins and my family that don't really encourage me? Or should I spend more time with that group that really lifts up my spirit? A massive transformative purpose has 4 key elements. Number 1, and remember the acronym is THAT. Thou art that. Thou art the thing you're looking for. It's inside of you, and you already are aware of it because it does these 4 things. Number 1, it's transformative. If that's not obvious, it should be. An MTP has a massive transformative purpose. It's transformative. Basically, it describes the transformation, not that you want to see in yourself necessarily, but what you want to see in the world. A massive transformative purpose is the transformation you want to see in the world. It's the thing you really believe needs to be fixed. It names the fundamental problem that you see with the human species. It names it. And it helps you solve it, but it doesn't attack it and say, oh, the world stinks because of X. It actually flips it on its head and says, this is what I'm going to do in the world. So it names the fundamental problem in the world while wording it in a constructive, empowering way. A massive transformative purpose. And I'll give you an example of my own in just a quick second. A massive transformative purpose is number 1, transformative. It names the fundamental problem you want to see in the world, but rewords it in a constructive way on the work you're going to put your hand to. So number 1, our acronym of THAT, that. T stands for transformative. H stands for heart. Now, this is absolutely critical that you hear this. A massive transformative purpose has heart. What I mean by that is this. If your goal or your massive transformative purpose does not create an immediate emotional reaction in you, I present for your consideration, it's not a massive transformative purpose. It might be a good goal, write it down. It might be something you care about, write it down. But a massive transformative purpose stirs you emotionally to simply dwell on it and think about it and say it out loud. Jackie Whelm, who I'm proud to partner with our project, All Is Possible, we're meeting twice a week to show you how we're building this thing in the open. She confessed to me a certain people group that she considers that most of society has thrown away. It's specifically young special needs children. And she has this huge heart. If you just mention this to her, she wells up and it stirs her. That these people are considered throwaway when they're so valuable and kind and loving. I believe that when I think about people suffering from depression, which to me is mostly, not always, mostly completely preventable, I get stirred emotionally to think about that because I suffered with it. A massive transformative purpose is a purpose that you have heart for, that you connect with. It's great to have goals, have all kinds of goals, and they might pump you up a little bit. They might get you to the gym. Go look at my photos on Instagram, and maybe you'll get inspired to go to the gym, and maybe I'll see you there. Yeah, let's get inspiration from that. But a massive transformative purpose has heart. And when you think about that thing, it stirs you. Nothing stirs me worse than when I see someone going about life who has all the potentiality in the world, but lacks a clearly defined goal that stirs them. They just have to spend time thinking about it, but they're scrolling instead. It bothers me. In our acronym, THAT, that. Thou art that thing. You are the thing you're looking for. In describing a massive transformative purpose, T stands for transformative, H stands for heart. What's the thing you have a heart for? THAT, A stands for attractive, attracting and aggregating. You see, if you are moved in your heart on a topic and you share that with somebody, they'll be drawn to it. A massive transformative purpose, when articulated on its transformative properties and the thing that moves you emotionally, the emotional connection, it will inherently attract people to it. I'll tell you mine with State of the Spark and give you an anecdote a little bit. State of the Spark, if you see this graphic right here, State of the Spark is the state of being sparked, but it's also a non-location nation of people who have overcome or are overcoming their own heart and mind limitations. I call it this: igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. That's my massive transformative purpose. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Of course, this moves me in my heart, as I said just a moment ago, but that draws people. If people are suffering and they're not feeling significance, and I say this, they're drawn to it. If people have overcome depression or lackadaisicalness or listlessness, and I say igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own, they know what I mean. They know that feeling. It attracts people. Your massive transformative purpose draws people in. THAT, thou art that. The last T stands for this. Transcendent. Your massive transformative purpose is transcendent. It's first and foremost transcendent of you, which means it probably won't be fulfilled in your lifetime. Oof. Goals are great. You can accomplish one this week. We can accomplish goals together over the next year together. Let's do this. Aaron Velasquez, we're both trying to angle to make sure that we can accomplish this Spartan race in early December. You can accomplish goals in your lifetime. But a path worth pursuing, a massive transformative purpose, should be transcendent of you. It should be transcendent of the other participants. It should be transcendent of the friends you have now. You should have to transcend the friends you have now in order to become what you need to become, in order to make the impact you're trying to make with your massive transformative purpose. It should be transcendent of the town you live in. I need to actually go beyond this town. It's great to have a home base. Go have a home base. Go build a community. But your massive transformative purpose transcends that. Your massive transformative purpose might even transcend the world. Peter Diamandis has a passion to inspire and guide the world's population and humanity beyond the earth. That's why he helps with SpaceX, and that's why he helps Elon Musk get to Mars. That's who Peter Diamandis is. Yours might transcend that, but I guarantee you this, it will transcend yourself. You see, a massive transformative purpose is an infinite game by a hair's breadth. What I mean is this. Goals are completely accomplishable. You should be able to accomplish your goals, and so should I, in our lifetime. And I want to do it together. Tell me your goals in the comments below. Please, it inspires me. It's fuel for me. I think saying it out loud will be fuel for you. But a massive transformative purpose will draw people and create a movement of something that will have to be fulfilled by a movement because it will have to be fulfilled beyond you. It's transcendent. If it's just you, it's just a goal. And quite honestly, if it's just your goal, it rarely actually triggers the emotional connection necessary. You see, people only follow that thing. People only follow a movement. People only follow a cause if it stirs them emotionally. This is why people used to follow faith. Faith used to connect deeply emotionally with the needs, the pain, and the supreme hero's journey of a person. Very rarely do churches, very rarely do synagogues, very rarely does any faith, even Buddhism, and I follow a lot of these practices, very rarely do any of them connect on a deeply emotional, transcendent level. But a massive transformative purpose should. Your massive transformative purpose should. So here's that acronym, THAT. It comes from the Hindi phrase Tatvamasi, and it means thou art that. THAT. It's transformative. It transforms the world, not just you. You will be transformed in the process of making that impact. You'll have to be. You'll have to become something more. So it's transformative. H, it has absolute heart. It connects deeply and emotionally. A, it will attract people because it's so integrated into the human experience. And T, it's transcendent of who you are. Listen, I want you to have a massive transformative purpose. I want you to write this thing out today. Thank you so much, Jillian, and thank you for sticking around. It means a lot to me because it helps me know that I'm fulfilling my massive transformative purpose. So thank you. Why am I talking about this? Well, of course, I want you to not only write big goals. I wrote a book on goal setting, The Top 100 Dream Igniter. Go look it up or ask me. I have copies. I'll give you one. I want you to write big goals. But more than that, I want you to have a massive transformative purpose that starts to elevate you, take you beyond who you've been, and bring you into this fullness of your potentiality to create a movement that makes an impact in the world. That is my mission, to empower that. And I simply call this the mission, igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a phenomenal day.